Hello and welcome to Over 50 and Flourishing. I'm Dominique Sachse, and today we are diving into a topic that certainly stirs up a lot more emotion than you might expect. Birthdays. For some, it's a time of celebration and joy. For others, a time of anxiety, sadness, even dread. My guest today is Tamar Hurwitz-Fleming, and she is helping to rewrite the narrative. She is the author of the award-winning book, How to Have a Happy Birthday, and she's on a mission to help people reclaim their special day, not with confetti and cake alone, but with meaning, purpose, and joy. So whether you love birthdays or you secretly loathe them, today's conversation will give you tools to reimagine how you celebrate yourself and your life at any age. So let's dive in. Welcome to Over 50 and Flourishing, Tamar. It's so good to have you. And what an unusual concept of yours.
Yeah. Birthdays, we all have them, but we don't actually realize that there's a way to have a happy birthday because a lot of us, believe it or not, don't have happy birthdays.
Oh, I believe it. And I think there is so much stress and anxiety that can surround birthdays. So it's an important conversation to have, even though some people might be thinking, oh, well, what's the big deal? It's just a birthday. But it is a big deal because it is the celebration of your entrance into the world. I almost feel compelled, this podcast will air on a specific date, but then anybody can listen or watch it at any particular time. I almost feel compelled to just sing happy birthday to you, to anybody listening. Do you want to join me?
Let's do it. That's a great idea.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
you have a pretty voice, dear you.
Happy birthday to you.
And many more. Yay!
That's awesome. Yay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for indulging me. I know sometimes the audio, there can be a little disconnect. So I was trying to sync myself to you. Anyway, I hope it worked out. So Tamar, what led to the heart of this? Why? How to have a happy birthday?
This idea came to me about 15, 20 years ago. A friend of mine, he was a relatively new friend. I knew his birthday was coming up. And I said, hey, what are you doing for your birthday? And he said, I don't like my birthday. I said, oh, okay. And I thought he was just like I had been, where it's like, no one gave me enough attention. No one made enough of a big deal. So when his birthday came, I showed up with a big box of donuts and I said, happy birthday. And he slammed his hand on the table and he said, I told you I don't like my birthdays. And I was really shocked because he actually meant it. And he meant it deeply. It was clear that there was a lot of pain in there for him with his birthday experience. And so I walked out of there holding the donuts. He didn't even keep the donuts. And I just thought, there's something there to look at. And I started to think about my own birthday experiences from being a very young child all the way up into my teenage years where I didn't have happy birthdays. Some were, most of them weren't. And I started to understand that a lot of us have challenges with our birthday, typically rooted in childhood experiences where we were disappointed, we were let down, we were so excited it's our birthday, and then people forgot or they didn't make a big deal or they yelled at us that day and, and then gave us cake and wanted us to be happy, Yeah. So it made me realize that there was something deep here. And I had a very difficult birthday when I turned 18 and I write about it in my book. It was my first year away from home. I'm the baby of 4 kids, turning 18, a big milestone birthday. And all I had planned that day, now this was back in 1984, before we had cell phones, right? So all I had planned that day was just to sit in my dorm room and take all the calls that were going to come. Well, the calls never came. My entire family forgot my birthday and I was devastated. And unfortunately, it reinforced these beliefs I had about myself, that I wasn't that lovable, wasn't that important. And that really weighed heavily on my soul. Fortunately, 2 years later, I was spending my junior year abroad in France, turning 20, another milestone. I woke up, still didn't have plans, but no one was around to do it for me. And I said, you know what? Today's my day. I'm going to take the day off class. I'm going to walk through town. I'm going to buy myself a fancy bottle of French perfume that I could not afford, but I did anyway. Had friends over later for cake. And I had the best birthday I'd ever had because I took charge of it and made it what I wanted to be. And that's what taught me at the age of 20, like, oh, I get it. We're not supposed to outsource our birthday joy to others. We're supposed to make it happen ourselves, be in charge. No one should care more about my birthday than me. Nobody should care more about your birthday than you. Even though I know your husband cherishes your birthday and reveres you, it's still your day for you to honor fully, right? As your own.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and everything always seems to point back to the 6-year-old child. Do you know what I'm
Right?
saying?
Totally.
There are just childhood roots in everything. And as I listen to your story, it makes me think, even culturally within families, there could be this narrative that we make a big deal of your birthday up until a certain age, and afterwards you're supposed to like get over it, or grow up, or it's not a big deal. Explain how even just the birthday culture in the family can have an impact on, I guess, a person's expectations.
The birthday, the family culture has an impact on everything, right? How we approach all holidays, not just our
Mhm.
birthdays. And so I believe that our birthday is a major holiday and it needs to be treated as such, planned for as such. And yet, if our family from a young age doesn't make a big deal about them, um, or does and like overdoes it, but then when we become adult, we think, oh, well, we can never live up to that. So that's just in the realm of childhood. That's for us to navigate. But as adults, I just want to say that your birthday is the most spiritual day of your year.
Mm.
It's the most powerful day of your year. Think about it. It is the day that you began your life. And we are all miracles, right? We are all miracles. And so we deserve to honor and celebrate this life that we are living, these souls that are inhabiting these physical bodies, right?
Mhm.
These miraculous journeys that we're all on, even if they're difficult, right? Even if they're challenging, even if they're glorious, whatever experience you're having in life, take your birthday as one day a year to say, okay, here I am. I mean something. I matter. Let me honor myself. Let me be grateful for myself. And let me do a check-in. Am I living the life I want to be living? Birthdays are like your own personal new year. So ask yourself, is this the life I want to be living? And if so, great. What do I want to do this coming year to turn up the volume on that? And if not, what can I do in the coming year to improve and be more in alignment with my soul's purpose and with the life that I want to be living? And make it just a 1-year plan. The 5-year and the 10-year plans are kind of daunting.
Sure.
But what can I do in this coming year to be more in alignment with my spirit and who I want to be?
Tamar, you said something that really sparked thought in me, and you talked about the miracle. And it made me
Yeah.
think, once upon a time, a lot of women didn't, or children didn't survive childbirth. So it is a miraculous event in and of itself. And yes, if for that reason alone, it is worthy of celebration. It is worthy of celebrating the miracle of childbirth, the miracle of your life,
Yes.
and what that is and what that means. And I love that perspective. And I'm so curious. I haven't done any research on this. I don't know if you have, but even historically, do you know how birthdays were celebrated, or is this just more of a modern culture thing?
I did a little bit of research when I started writing this book about the history of birthdays, and it goes back to the pharaohs. So I knew
Mhm.
that. And I know that in Germany, at a certain point, they were starting to bring in the candles. And I said, this is not an academic book. This is a self-help book. Let's just get into the heart of the matter in today's world, that the birthday is a powerful day. It's a day
Sure.
worth honoring, and it is a major holiday that we all deserve to celebrate.
Yeah. No, it is. It's fascinating. And I just, I'm so curious about just the feeling of self. And I think maybe there is this struggle, and maybe you even write to this as well, this struggle of, well, I'm not supposed to toot my own horn, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not supposed to, I'm supposed to focus on others. So, and I think people struggle with this. How can I put the spotlight on me when I need to be casting it outward? What do you say to that?
I love that question. It's such a big one. First off, we all get one 24-hour period a year to put ourselves in the center of our life. It's
Mhm.
an equal opportunity provider. I'm not more fortunate than you are. I don't get 27 hours and you get 23. We all get one
Right.
24-hour period, right? So let's just acknowledge that this is something that impacts us equally. What I love about birthdays is that everybody, generally speaking, allows us to have our day. If you go into the coffee shop and you say, it's my birthday today, to a stranger behind the counter, they will light up and be happy
Mhm.
for you. They understand, because when their day comes around, they know what it feels like. They know that you're special on your birthday. And in terms of what you said earlier, a lot of us are people pleasers. We're used to taking care of others.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be hard to say, okay, today's my day. But that's why it's so important to do that. Because I think that for people that are always caring for others and putting others' needs before themselves, a birthday is a powerful opportunity to stop and say, okay, what about me? Where am I in my life? What would please me? What would bring me delight on my birthday? How can I honor me and give to me? This is really powerful work. A lot of us don't want to do that. It's a lot easier to give to others than to stop and tune into yourself. Yet I believe that this is an essential part of humanity, is to tune into yourself. You know, you are with yourself forever, right? You are part of the divine spark that is now you. And so how do you form a pleasant relationship with yourself? You know, we talk a lot about love yourself. It can be hard to love yourself, but can you like yourself? Can you be your own friend? And I think a birthday gives us a wonderful opportunity and gives us permission, all of us, to say, okay, what would delight me on my birthday? What would bring me joy? What would bring me fulfillment? What can I do to make that happen? And when we ask ourselves what we can do to bring fulfillment to ourselves on our birthday, guess what? Maybe that question can start to filter into the rest of the year. What can I do to bring fulfillment into my life and other days of the year?
Yeah. Interesting. Your perspective is really owning your day and treating yourself as someone of value. And what does that look like that you get to define? I find that a lot of people tend to push it aside, right? It's no big deal. It's just another day. But they have pent up resentment toward people who don't step up and do something and honor them. So what is that?
That is,
what do you call
that's
that?
a big one. I call that birthday sabotage is what I call it. And chapter 2 in my book is all about the birthday blues. I got right into it right away because it's a big deal. I actually believe we're on a birthday spectrum. Some of us are birthday positive. Some of us are birthday avoidant. Somewhere we're all somewhere on that number line. I think if you were to draw a line down the middle, half of us are on one side, half of us on the other. And for those of us that subconsciously or consciously believe that we don't matter and need people to prove how much they love us, need people to prove that they'll do everything they can to celebrate us and even read our minds and know exactly what we would want, we're setting ourselves up for constant disappointment. It doesn't work like that. Every once in a while it does. Every once in a while we have a fantastic best friend or partner that absolutely knows how to razzle dazzle us, and they do it. But even still, we might be sabotaging our ability to receive the joy. We might pick a fight the night before our birthday, believe it or not, and get in some heavy conversations as a way to bring our energy down and say, see, I don't really have happy birthdays. You know, blah. But I think this idea of having big expectations for other people to do for us what truly we can only do for ourselves, again, reinforces, see, I told you my birthdays suck. I hate my birthdays. Next year, I'm just going to forget them. We're very sensitive on our birthdays. We're like anemones, right? And the slightest thing in the days leading up to our birthday and on the birthday itself can make us shut down and withhold and drop down and not be present for the real glory that can be there on our birthday. I am never more radiant than I am on my birthday. I am in pure alignment with my spirit on my birthday, pure alignment with God on my birthday, because that's the day my life began. What can be more in alignment than what other day of the year is in more alignment? Am I in more alignment than that?
Yeah. You write about something that I really appreciated, and I want you to elaborate it. You say birthdays are supposed to be fulfilling, not festive. What is the difference between the two?
Well, they can be festive for sure. But I think if I can quote myself, and let me see if I can, birthdays are often festive, but not fulfilling.
Fulfilling, correct.
Yeah. So we've got the balloons, we've got the party, but something's missing. And to me, the thing that was missing for me when I would have festive birthdays that weren't fulfilling was my spirit. To me, that what I do for my birthdays are very spiritual. I start the day in gratitude and in prayer, to get in alignment with my spirit, right? And with God, so that as the day unfolds, I'm fully present for what unfolds. I think that when we just focus externally, right, on the gifts, the balloons, the cake, the party, if that's what floats your boat, awesome. If you're really happy when your day has come and gone like that, great. But for some of us, we feel like, something's missing. And to me, it's the deeper part. It's the soul part. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I would like to do a deeper dive into that, as well as why do we struggle with a number? Tamar Hurwitz-Fleming is my guest today on how to have a happy birthday. And we promise you by the end of this podcast, you will. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. We could all use a little bit of calm, right? Whether it's dealing with sleep issues, anxiety, or stress. Can I point you in the direction of the Calm app? It is the number one app for sleep and meditation. Gives you the power to calm your mind and absolutely change your life. Maybe it's seasonal. Maybe there's just more on the calendar now than there was during the summer, and you're facing just an extra load of stress or anxiety. Well, there is something for everybody from the Calm app, whether it's a guided meditation that can help you work through anxiety and stress, boost your focus, build healthier habits, and take better care of your overall physical well-being. Maybe you need sleep stories. I love them personally. The sleep meditations, even calming music, those help me drift off to restful sleep quickly and naturally. They also have grounding exercises, which help you reset and relax when you just feel a little overwhelmed. And there are expert-led talks to help you handle grief, improve self-esteem, even improve relationships. There is something for everybody. Calm has over 2 million five-star reviews, and it can help you stress less, sleep more, and live a whole lot better. Calm also has an exclusive offer for listeners of our show. Get 40% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/over50. This is an amazing value. Go to calm.com/over50 for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. Calm.com/over50 and tell Calm you heard about them from me. Welcome back. My guest today is Tamar Hurwitz-Fleming. She has written a beautiful and unique book called How to Have a Happy Birthday. You know, I bet you're scratching your head like I was when I first saw it. And I thought, wow, what a cool concept. And I know I haven't discussed this with anybody before. I don't think I've read a book about it before. You've certainly hit a niche, Tamar, and I love it. And I think it is something that we emotionally struggle with, as we talked about in the beginning part of this podcast. It has childhood roots to it. We take that into adulthood, and we can punish ourselves and other people in the process because we are unfulfilled in this way. And so when we last left our audience, we were talking about the difference between fulfillment. What does a fulfilling birthday look like? And it can look different for everybody else. And I love how you talked about that spiritual connection, that it starts in the morning, the day of, with gratitude and God. Thank you, I'm here. That's the first place to begin a birthday. But, as we move through and we don't articulate what it is that we want for that day, either to ourselves and to others, as you mentioned, we're setting ourselves up for sabotage. So I would love to strategize with you on how to set ourselves up and tee ourselves up for a great day. What does that look like?
Well, let's think about Thanksgiving. In the same way that you're not going to wake up on Thanksgiving morning and say, okay, what's for dinner and who's coming, right? You're planning in advance. You do the same thing for your birthday. Your birthday is a major holiday. It's your own personal New Year. Start thinking about it at least a month in advance. What do I want to do? Because if you want to go to a fancy restaurant that just opened up in town, you need to make a reservation for that. If you want to have a day at the spa, you need to make a reservation for that. If you want to have friends over for a barbecue, you need to invite your friends so that they can put it on their calendar and be available for you. This whole idea that you're going to wake up and be spontaneous on your birthday, that works well if you're having a solo birthday, right? What do I want to do today by myself? But if you're planning on including other people, you need to set yourself up for success and invite them with enough time so that they can be available for it. And so planning is a really big part of having a happy birthday. You may not exactly know what you want to do, but as you start thinking about it, start dialing in, it'll start to become clear. And do what you want to do. Don't think about how you can please other people. I was talking to a gentleman recently. He was turning 50, and all he wanted to do was go on a solo trip by himself to celebrate his 50th birthday. But his family and friends wanted to throw him a party. They wanted to celebrate him. I get it. It's a big deal. So that's what happened. And he wasn't fulfilled. And I suggested, hey, you could have had the party a week in advance and then gone on the solo trip by yourself on your birthday. Because the birthday itself, whatever day of the week it falls, is the power day. It's the day you're in pure alignment. So don't minimize that and don't ignore that because you're having a party a week in advance or a weekend party. Do what you want, but really honor the day itself in whatever way you choose. And allow yourself to, once again, ask yourself, what do you want to do? It's whatever you want to do. If you want, somebody stayed in their pajamas all day and watched reruns. Great. They were happy. It never occurred to them that they could take the day off work and do that, but that was their version of a happy birthday. Whatever it is that makes you happy is what you get to choose to do.
Some people, Tamar, say age is but a number. Others really struggle with the number, especially those decade birthdays. And
Yeah.
we talked about this during the commercial break. Courtney was turning 30 this year, and it was a big wind up for her. And you talked about how sometimes the wind up can be way more intense than the actual experience itself. What is the significance with decade birthdays? Why do we get so hung up on these numbers? And why do some people, like you just said, the gentleman friend who you mentioned chose to celebrate the 50th? Well, is the 50th more important than the 49th? And what is it with these decades?
It's a great question. I think that, just like we celebrate, I remember I was born in 1966. I'm actually 59 and a half. I'm having a big birthday January 9th. I'm turning 60.
Yep.
I feel it. I don't have any problem getting older. I'm embracing it all. But for me, 60 represents a new decade. And I'm no longer middle aged. I'm not going to live to be 120. And also the 60s for me, and maybe for everybody else, Medicare, Social Security,
Yeah.
retirement. I mean, these are the senior years, and that
Yeah.
has meaning to it. So I think that these milestone birthdays are significant because it's the entry into another decade, and age changes us. We
Mhm.
know that we were so different in our 20s than we were in our 40s, right? So I just feel like there's something very real about these milestone birthdays. And once again, for me turning 60, what's happening for me is that I'm realizing there's less time ahead of me.
Mhm.
I don't know how long I'm going to live. There's no assumption I'm going to make it to 60, right? I mean, I'm healthy, I'm fine, but we don't know. So the fact that I'm going to make it to 60 is something worth celebrating. I hope I make it to 70. But what I know is that in my 60s, I've got ideally a decade ahead of me to fulfill all that stuff on my bucket list, whether it's travel,
Mhm.
whether it's creativity, whether I want to write another book. Like now's the time. I get this sense that there's less time ahead of me. And I think it is important to acknowledge these milestones. I think it is important to acknowledge our mortality. Because if I don't want to wake up one day and be 75 and say, whoa, what happened? Most of my life is behind me. Where have I been? I've been checked out. I haven't been fully present with myself and my potential and God's plan for me, right?
Mhm.
I remember I heard you and your husband talking so beautifully about God has a plan for everybody. And it's true, but we have to co-create with God. We have to make our life flourish.
Mhm.
God plants the seeds. We've got to garden and weed and water and fertilize to make the blooms that we are, the flowers that we are blossom. And that's what we get to do with the time we have in this life. And each milestone birthday represents another opportunity, but also that there is less time ahead.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's a healthy assessment. At the same point, you don't want to put yourself in the category with others, right? That at this point in my life, this needs to happen. And by this point, this needs to happen because we all run our own race and our lives are unique as our thumbprints are. But at the same point, it's so interesting because whenever you hear those studies of older people, and what would you have done differently, right? Now that you're at this point in your life, and many of them say, well, I wish I had worked less. I wish I had
Yeah.
spent more time with family. I wish I traveled more. I wish I embraced fear more. I wish I was more adventurous. All of these things. And I hear you because when you say 60, yes, you're right. We are, and I'm just 1 year behind you. We're
Yeah.
definitely past that midlife point. And it does have you thinking, okay, if there's a finite amount of time, and look, God decides what that is. It could be
Yeah.
1 year, it could be 40 more years. We don't know. What do we want that time to look like? So it's not so much, I think, a fear thing, the way I'm trying to embrace it. It's an opportunity experience where, okay, knowing these things, how do I want to curate this next chapter in my life? Right. So you're saying that's why it's important to
Yeah,
not
it
abort.
is. Absolutely. And, with each chapter that comes, and we were talking, as you said in the commercial break with Courtney, that life just gets better as you get older. That's my experience, at least. I don't
Same.
want to be 30 again. I don't want to be 40 again. I
Mhm.
enjoyed all those periods of my life, but I'm so much more fulfilled and in alignment with who I am now and able to have full agency like I hadn't had before to live the
Mhm.
life I want to live. So, and I do think that, it's like vacation. As it starts to wrap up, you start to really appreciate your time on the beach. And it's the same with life. I said this the other day. Somebody was talking about somebody's illness or something. And I just said, thank God, God invented death. right? I don't want to be me in this
Mhm.
body through eternity. That doesn't
Right.
sound fun to me. I actually like the fact that at a certain point, I get to go back home to God out of
Mhm.
this body, right?
Yes,
But in the
exactly.
meanwhile, what do I do with the life I've been given? What do
Mm.
I do with this person that I am? And birthdays are a wonderful opportunity to ask those questions and to take
Mhm.
stock of your life and to say, well, what do I want to do today? And how can that inform what I do in the coming year? And yes, even in the coming decade. I mean, turning 60 is making me think about my 60s, not
Mhm.
just until I make it to 61. It's a big number.
Right. And every birthday can, will, and probably should look different because of
Yeah,
where we are in our season. Maybe to your point, your 60th, you want the big group, the big gathering, the big sort of momentous stepping into the new decade and what that symbolizes for you. And then maybe one year you just want to go out with your spouse and have dinner at a neighborhood restaurant. And that's okay too, right?
exactly. 100%. It's whatever you want to do. I knew that I was going to turn 50 on a Saturday night. I knew
Mhm.
that for years. I was really excited about my 50th birthday. I had a party. I fulfilled that desire to celebrate 50 in a big way. 50 is a big number also. This year, I didn't know what I want to do for my 60th. I just like, I don't know. And I've decided my husband and I are going to India for 10 weeks. We're going to
Ah.
take a big trip to India. I can't think of any better way to bring in my 60s than to go into this amazing adventure of great intensity and brilliance and excitement. So I feel like grabbing life by the horns and swinging it on the disco floor. That's my motto. And this is a great way for me to do that. But yeah, every birthday is different.
Yeah. What kind of message are we sending to ourselves in how we choose to honor or not honor this day?
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. The message that I hope we send to ourselves on our birthday is that we matter. We're perfect exactly the way we are, even with all our imperfections, and that we deserve to be honored and celebrated. And we deserve to feel gratitude for who we are exactly the way we are. And so I believe that when we allow ourselves the tenderness of celebrating ourselves on our birthday, and it is a tender thing, we're vulnerable
Mhm.
when we
It
open up to
is.
that it actually heals our heart a little bit more. It makes us kinder people a little bit more. And as that happens one person at a time, the world becomes a better place because we're softer to ourselves. And I believe that when we're softer to
Mhm.
ourselves, we're softer to the world around us.
Yeah, that's lovely. I love that, Tamar. I think the root of a lot of it is worthiness
Yeah.
and a lack of worthiness that probably pulls people away from the celebratory nature of a birthday, or it could be a financial thing. But it's interesting to me that many people will attribute a lack of finances as a way to say, no, not this year. And it doesn't have to be that way. It's do you value yourself? And then in return, what does that celebration look like? So let's speak to that, because I think some people would say, well, I don't have the money to have the big party and the big this or big that. Give us a budget birthday that has some heart and soul to it.
Yeah. What does it mean for you to wake up? Well, what I do the night before my birthday, and I just want to say this. You know how Christmas Eve is really special and
Mhm.
sparkly? Well, so is your birthday Eve. Birthday Eve is a thing. So on your birthday Eve, can you create like a birthday altar to yourself, right? Put up a happy birthday banner, bring flowers, pictures of yourself from childhood, the mementos you love. Can you create a special space for yourself? And then on your birthday morning, spend some time in gratitude once again for your spiritual presence as a physical form in having a human life, right? So start spiritually and then go take a walk, go take your coffee in the garden, go do some yoga, go
Mm.
ask a friend to meet you to walk by the river, go to the farmer's market, make yourself a birthday collage, not a vision board like da, 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 but like a beautiful creation that you make from cut up magazines to honor with a special word that you want to invoke for the coming year. Think about your birthday wish.
Mm.
Depending on when your birthday is, depending on the season, there's plenty of things that you can do without spending a dime. You can go to the coffee shop, tell them it's your birthday. Chances are very good they're going to give you a free cup of coffee. So you don't
Mm.
even have to spend money there. I know certain restaurants, if you show up on your birthday, they'll give you a free meal. But there are plenty of ways to have a meaningful day by yourself or with other people without spending money. You just
Mm.
have to be creative about it and think about the spiritual values of the day, the immaterial values, not the stuff, right? And I do recommend, having said that, I do think it's a beautiful thing to buy yourself a birthday present. I
Mm.
really like doing that. And so maybe part of your day can be spent, buy yourself a coffee mug, right? Just a coffee mug. It doesn't cost that much, but it represents you giving something to yourself that you can enjoy for the rest of your year. So there's ways that, don't let money be an excuse for why you can't celebrate yourself. You don't need to have a big party or have a potluck. Say, hey, friends, come on over. It's time for potluck. Somebody brings the cake. Somebody brings the hot dogs, whatever it is. You don't have to pay a dime. They can come. You just have to clean up after they leave.
Exactly. Those are great ideas, great ideas. And, as I've gotten older, my priorities have shifted and relationships and those things matter, so much more to me. And it made me reflect also, my lovely mother who passed away 2 years ago. My birthday was so included her because she obviously birthed me, but she took so much pride and joy in me. And she would always, I was born on 11:35 a.m. on June 11th, and she would call me at 11:35 every June 11th to wish me a happy birthday. And she would recite the whole birth and how I was the easiest birth. And I came out in an hour and a half and, just all of it. But it was so much a part of her too. And I loved that. I loved how it brought the birth mother into the equation. And so much of my birthday was about her bringing me into this world as well. And I think that's neat. Oftentimes we forget to impart that, to our children and how as moms, how special their birth was. And talk about that story, and let them know just how precious it was bringing them into this world.
That's right. That's really beautiful. And that speaks to the heart of the spiritual nature of our birthdays, right? What's more spiritual than birthing a soul into the form that we are now? I mean, that is the essence. And the work that your mother did to bring you through was true labor, right? And it was a labor of love. And that she called you every day at 11:35 a.m. is just so touching to me. And I know you miss her that much more because she's not there to call you, and how sad that first birthday must have been for you when she wasn't around. However, given how spiritual birthdays are, our parents that have passed on, and both of my parents have passed on, are fully present for us on our birthdays. I feel my parents' spirit so strongly on my birthday. It's like a spiritual portal, right?
Yes,
it's like a special portal. And when it's time for my parents' birthdays, I feel their spirits as well. So birthdays are really spiritual, and we can use them that way. We can use them as portals to connect with those we love that have passed on. And I love that about birthdays.
Yeah. And I love that you articulated that because you're right. You do feel that presence. It is very strong and powerful, that connection. So that right there is a reason to not deny the significance of this day because truly and spiritually, we feel that connection. So now that we've determined that we are worthy of some type of a celebration, some type of an honoring, I want you to help people kind of work through. And I know, and I love that you did this too, your book, How to Have a Happy Birthday. You have also created a workbook. So what does that look like for somebody who's like, all right, I give, I'm going to start at least treating this and treating myself seriously. So we're going to hold on to that thought and we're going to guide people through right after this quick break. Ladies, we do so much for everybody. Can I encourage you to take care of your body? That's where Live It Up Super Greens comes in. This is a daily habit that actually works. No hassle, no fuss. Literally one scoop, mix and go. What is it that we're talking about? Live It Up Super Greens is an all-natural blend of over 20 superfoods formulated with organic vegetables, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and naturally derived ingredients. I mean, come on, let's get real. Are we taking in enough vegetables in our day? Probably not. One scoop a day will promote gut health. It'll support your immune system and just give you that feel-good energy that you can count on. I love it. I just, like I say, put it in my smoothie. I blend, I go, and it has a great taste, no chalky aftertaste. It is sugar-free, dairy-free, gluten-free. It doesn't have anything artificial in it. It's something you can feel good about every single day. Makes a big difference. And hey, you're worth it. Live It Up is offering you 15% off your first order, including subscriptions with code Flourishing. Plus, shipping is always free. Head to letsliveitup.com/flourishing and use code Flourishing for 15% off your first Super Greens order. Now, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. The product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Welcome back. We are having a very celebratory conversation on how to have a happy birthday with Tamar Hurwitz-Fleming, who has written the very book, along with an accompanying book. It's a workbook to help us, for those of us who are kind of stuck maybe, and we've stopped having happy birthdays, or we've stopped prioritizing the day, or maybe we've gotten hung up on certain days. So, Tamar, what can people expect with the workbook?
The workbook is an opportunity. Well, the book explains why birthdays are important, ways we sabotage our birthday joy, ways we can celebrate our day. But the workbook itself actually helps you take a deep dive. This is a self-help book. So if you're interested in getting more self-awareness around your birthday story, around your birthday dynamics, this workbook helps you do it. It starts to ask meaningful questions that you answer in a journal format. Why don't you like your birthday? What happened that gave you these messages that you weren't worth celebrating yourself? So the first part of that workbook is, let's get all that out. And now let's clarify those messages. Let's get more conscious about them. What can you tell yourself about those messages? Is that true? Whose messages did you absorb that aren't yours, that are society's or other people's, right? Give them back. Don't carry them anymore. So there's a lot of meaningful work that can be done to whatever choice you want to. And then as the workbook goes on, now let's talk about things you love, the 3 cake flavors you love, the, places you can travel to within an hour or two to take a little road trip, start people you love that you never see, start listing out the things that you love, because hopefully it'll start to encourage you to think, oh, for my birthday, I want to contact this person that I haven't seen in 5 years and ask them if they want to meet me for lunch and go for a walk. What a great idea. That excites me. But you wouldn't have ever thought about that because it didn't occur to you to think about the people that you like, but you don't see. We know there's a lot of people we like, but we don't see. What if they became part of your birthday celebration? It wasn't just the neighbor next door that you always see, right? So there's an opportunity then to, dive deeply, talk about aging. One of the questions I love is, what do you think you no longer have that you once had now that you're getting older? Because let's face it, there are things I don't have anymore that I used to have when I was younger. And what do I have now that I didn't have when I was younger? Right? I can come up with a whole list of things that I have now in terms of wisdom and depth and compassion and patience, all this stuff that I didn't have when I was younger, that I have now that I'm older. I want to honor that, but I wouldn't know it if I didn't externalize it and write it down. And so this workbook really helps you take a deeper dive into your birthday experience with the hopes of encouraging you and inviting you to celebrate yourself more consciously, more fully, so that you can have a happy birthday.
Can you help us get outside of the birthday box, so to speak? We have these, I think, limited definitions of what a birthday celebration can look like. What are some unusual, different ways of celebrating a birthday?
That answer can be answered by as many people as are listening. It's whatever you want to go skydiving, go skydiving. You want to learn how to scuba dive, do it. Start on your birthday. You want to go you want to go antique shopping and do whatever you want. I mean, really, you don't have to have the cake and the balloons and the birthday party unless you want that. But what I'm really excited about birthdays, it gives everybody 100% permission to say, what do I want to do? What would make me happy? How can I make that happen? And that right there is a powerful act on behalf of yourself that actually informs your life in a beautiful way. The other thing I want to say, just referring earlier to sort of like how to celebrate without on a budget, my favorite birthday present, my husband gives me gifts, physical gifts, which I love. But to me, they're trinkets. I don't care how fancy they are. They're still trinkets, because the best gift he gives me every year on my birthday is he writes me a love letter.
Yes.
And my goodness.
Yep. Nothing
Oh
like
boy,
it.
nothing like it. And I know he loves me, and it's not like I didn't know, but on the birthday, when he takes the time to articulate and look at the year in the past and what's ahead, and the depth and the richness from soul to soul nourishes me so deeply. That's the present I look forward to every year.
That's a gift. See,
that's a gift.
That's a gift. Yeah. I think you nailed it on the head right there. And honestly, I think, if you ask that of people, say, when people say, well, what do you want for your birthday?
Yeah.
I just want a heartfelt expression of what me in your life means to you. There is nothing more precious than that.
Nothing.
Because oftentimes the most important things go unsaid. And I'm a big believer of not gatekeeping love, kindness, words of appreciation and affirmation. We do that far too often, and people don't know or understand what they really mean to us and why. There is no greater gift than that.
None. And you can, what do you want for your birthday? I would love it if you wrote me a little note or a little poem about how you feel about me, exactly what you said. And yes, I would love to do that. Thank you for asking me to do that. And then you have them. You know what? Love, there's nothing like love. There's nothing like love is it, right? Love is
and
it.
relationship.
Yes.
That's it to me.
Yes.
So I'm so glad you brought that up. It's so funny, culturally, we've seen birthdays turn into birth weeks and birthday months, and it's like this continuum. Is there such a thing as too much of a good thing?
Another great question. I've been thinking about that, and again, it's whatever you want to do. I think once again, I come back to this point that the birthday itself, the actual day of your birth, is the power day. Yes, I will celebrate with people on my birth week if I can't spend time with them on my birthday and they want to take me out to lunch, sure. But I'm not mistaking that as the actual birthday. And I don't want to dilute the power of the birthday by having the whole month be my celebratory month. Now, when I'm in India, I will tell you that for 10 weeks that I'm there, it's going to be a 10-week birthday trip. I'm going to tell everybody I'm here for my 60th, and just because that's part of me making a big deal about this big milestone. But if I were turning 61, it would just be January 9th would be the day. January 9th will still be the day, but I'm allowing myself to expand because it's a milestone birthday and I'm doing a adventurous thing. But I think that there can be dilution of energy when we just spread it out and we don't focus on the day. So my motto is focus on the day. Do what you want, but focus on the day.
This is about, right now we're talking about what we can do for ourselves, but how can we take these principles and apply it to others in our lives who have birthdays coming up and maybe they're shying away from it or like, it's nothing, but we know it's not nothing. So what are some active guidelines to apply this to other people?
So one of the things that we can do for the people close to us is say, hey, your birthday's coming up in 1 month. Have you been thinking about it? And is there anything I can do to help support you have a happy birthday? I'm in service to you for your birthday. Whatever you would like to do that I can help with, I would be honored to do. Let me know. And if you want to have some brainstorming sessions, if you want me to help figure stuff out for you, depending on your relationship with the person. My husband's birthday is coming up next month. And in about 15 days, I'm going to start asking him, what do you want to do for your birthday? Like, really, what do you want to do so that I can help him plan? He likes his birthdays now, certainly more than he has, but he's not like I am. He's not just gung ho diving in. He needs my support for that. And I welcome that opportunity. And so just asking the questions starts to get the wheel turning. And if they say, oh, I don't know, I don't want to do anything, you can say, oh, well, here's something for you to read. Honestly, this book is a great birthday gift if you give it a month to 6 weeks in advance. So that's another thing that you can do is actually now for people that really don't want to celebrate their birthdays, like my friend who got mad at me, just honor that. Just say, okay, well, just know that I understand you don't want to do anything, but just know that I honor you and I'm going to be celebrating you from afar. And maybe you can drop them a little note or give them a little card, but don't force it if they really have negative associations and hard times because it's painful. What you're doing is you're triggering a wound. You're triggering some sort of pain within them that they probably haven't looked at or felt in a long time. They've just buried. And so be compassionate about that. We can't force anybody to have a happy birthday. We can just invite them to consider that it's possible.
Yeah. Is there one thing we shouldn't be doing when trying to curate a good birthday?
For ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, we shouldn't be attached to perfection, right? Because birthdays happen and they have their own flow and energy to them. So show up, do your best to plan, but then just show up. You wanted to go for a walk in the park, but it's raining. Okay, well, now what? Now I'm going to go to a museum instead. I didn't plan on it, but look at this great exhibit I just saw and the person I ran into. Right? So allow magic to happen, allow the grace to come through your day. One of the things I love doing is turning on the radio on my birthday. Not my own playlist, but like something that's going to sing to me. And I always say God likes to play DJ. And you'd be surprised what can come through on your birthday.
I love that. That was an important thing to touch upon because in the planning and the preparation, I think we have a vision of execution, how things will go, especially when we've enlisted the help of others. in making the magic happen. But you're right, there is no such thing as perfect, and you certainly don't want there to be animosity or resentment in what's supposed to be celebratory. So how do you work through that if things aren't
Well,
going according
if
to
things aren't
plan
going,
and
and
other
that
people are
happens.
involved?
That happens. So just be mindful, like, okay, this isn't happening the way I want. I'm noticing my energy getting a little uptight. Take a deep breath. Let's just trust. Let's go with the flow. I've done my best. Let me find the grace in this moment. Let me find the gratitude in this moment. My friend showed up with the cake that I don't like passion fruit cake. I just don't. They misunderstood me when I said I'm passionate about cake, and they thought I meant passion fruit. Yuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Eat the cake or don't eat the cake, but like find the beauty in the effort that they put into it for you anyway. Like try and look at it with the glass half empty. Put on a good attitude, put on your gratitude. And at the end of the day, it just really matters how you're feeling inside yourself, and you're in control of that.
Yeah. And what would be one final takeaway as we kind of close out our podcast and close out our book with you? At the end, what do you want the reader to feel when they have read How to Have a Happy Birthday?
I want them to feel excited about their next birthday. I want them to feel some hope that their birthday can be happier than it's ever been, because they're suddenly in charge of their own joy and their own fulfillment.
That's beautiful. I love this. This is a first, Tamar, and I'm so glad that the Lord spoke to you in this way to write about it and to value us, because to Him we are precious gifts, and He wants us to see ourselves that way as well. And not only what we can do for ourselves on this day, but what we can do for others in our lives that we love. You mentioned that act of servitude and compassion and grace and all of that. So it really gives us food for thought. It gives us birthday cake for thought tomorrow.
That's right.
And I love birthday cake. So
I do know
there
that.
we go. So I love this podcast. But
Yeah.
I am so grateful you joined me. And your birthday is
January 9th.
January 9th. So we're halfway through the year, but I wish you an amazing time in India on your birthday and your 60th. And I know clearly it's going to be very intent driven as you think about that next season in your life. And as I said, I'm kind of behind you, and my mind is going there as well. But I appreciate the mindset and the value in all of that. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Dominique. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
What a lovely conversation. I really enjoyed having Tamar here. And wouldn't you know it, today's Dear Dominique kind of falls in line with what we were discussing today. The letter reads, Dear Dominique, I'm a little younger than your channel's target demographic, but I've loved you and your videos for many years. You've been like the big sister I never had. I appreciate you. I'm 45. I want to make the absolute most of this last half of this decade, but also prepare myself mentally, spiritually, physically, etc. as I head towards 50. What's the best piece of advice you can give someone who's facing 50 in a few years to best prepare them for living their best life now and at 50 plus? Thank you so much. Well, thank you. And that's why this podcast is called Over 50 and Flourishing, because I want to make sure that people like you who are not quite there yet know that there is so much joy and flourishing in life. And for those who are already there, maybe even past there, there is still so much more flourishing to do. So, what would I say to the 45-year-old you? First of all, I would say I am so grateful you're here. A lot of the topics and the conversations that I have, especially with health, wellness, menopause, I want to give women like you a leg up on things that I didn't necessarily get. I had to hunt, seek, and gather information to kind of figure out what was going on in my life at the time. So I would say, at your age, first of all, you're probably noticing some physical changes that are happening in your body. You're probably going through perimenopause. Well, thank goodness there is a wealth of information out there for you to understand and navigate the physical changes that are happening in your body, and to take ownership and take charge and ask a lot of questions and seek help if you don't feel right in your body. I know at 45 coming into 50, there were a lot of things about me physically that just didn't feel good. And it wasn't until I dialed that in and got the proper medical attention that I needed. For me, the answer was hormone replacement therapy, changed my life, changed how I slept, changed how I felt in my own skin. I mean, it was the beginning of, I would say, an opening of a new flower that was happening. And what I want to encourage you is to think of it that way. There are so many opportunities in your life at this point to, and it depends on where you are. I don't know, if you have children, family, career, but this is the time of assessment and at times reassessment of where you are. You will find that your priorities start to shift. I know they did for me. It was not so much about the climbing, but it was about the joy and the intent and the purpose in life. Was I doing what was purposeful in me? Or was I just simply executing a skill set that had been cultivated and curated? And sure, I could do it, but it just wasn't bringing me as much joy. So I think you start looking at aspects of your life with a magnifying glass, and it's like, okay, I want to really dial in. I want to make this time matter. And it's exactly to what Tamar was saying as she was looking at her 60s, and she's like, hey, I realize I'm past midlife. I understand the clock is starting to wind down. How am I going to look at things? How am I going to assess what matters? 50 is a big one. It is a time of assessment and what matters. So I encourage you to see it as an opportunity. I encourage you to really focus on mental, physical, spiritual. You touched on that in your question to me. All of those things matter. They all work in tandem and together. Nothing is separated. So examine your spiritual life. How dialed in are you in your relationship with the Lord? That matters. To me, that is the root of all things. Everything comes from there. Purpose, direction, what I'm supposed to be doing, how I'm supposed to be thinking, the quality of relationships, all of these things matter. So I encourage you to embrace this as a season of possibility. That's what it is. There's a reason why I chose the word flourishing, because it is a season to flourish, but we have to do our part and our work. And I'm excited for you. 45 is a beautiful time. You are nearing and entering a season that I have loved. I have loved my 50s. I have loved the wisdom and the change, needed change in my life. It just keeps getting better. And that's my encouragement to you and any of my younger viewers and listeners who are with me today. So thank you so much for that thoughtful question. And I wish you a happy 45th, and I wish you a happy 50th. And I thank you for being with me on this journey as well. And speaking of, I appreciate you taking in Over 50 and Flourishing, whether you do so on YouTube or Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Just a reminder, if you would like to submit a question for Dear Dominique, we will provide a link for you. And all you have to do is click that link and you can submit your question. And hopefully I will be able to address it here on the podcast. I love being able to include you. It means the world to me. And I also appreciate you when you rate, review, subscribe, and share this podcast with women in your life. Such a wonderful way to spread the word. And to what Tamar said, it's positivity. It is bringing in what we are capable of, what we are designed for. This is about hope, and it's about grace and encouragement. And I love bringing in more women to this platform so that they can understand and realize that they have a beautiful, beautiful season ahead. So please do that. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, where this podcast comes out every Monday and tutorials still every Thursday. Love being able to do it. Love being in servitude. And I thank you. Have a blessed week. And until next time.